Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, when I'm not signed in on YouTube, it's YouTube who recommends videos for me. And you would think that they would be tied in, since they know my IP address, to what I watch when I'm signed in. And mostly what I watch is the news. I do not watch the church, except for conferences, because I got to record it for the history and for warning Mormons of the dangers that they just threatened you with at conference. And nothing Christian, not even Jewish. I don't watch rabbis. And music, yeah, but more of the popular music, not so much less popular. And so, just to go over the not signed in page, we have Twisted Sisters Burned in Hell, which, yeah, I would listen to that, and I've used it in the description below in many videos. But it's not by Twisted Sister, it's by another person who did the video. Then you have Pablo Cantiero. It's a concert orchestra, and yeah, that could be interesting. I don't know why it's here. You know, if it's, I have no idea. I do recall using Ode to Die Hard in my description below for my videos. I don't think that's quite the same. Then we have Spanish Discursos y Profetas, Russell M. Nelson, El Matrimonio Celestial. And so the Discourses of the Prophet, Russell M. Nelson, about celestial marriage. So are you talking about polygamy? I did that video. Nobody's watching it. Why? The church is practicing polygamy. Nelson ordered all Mormons to practice polygamy, which means, first wives, you need to be obedient and divorce your husband so that he can marry a second and third and fourth and fifth wife. You're not paying attention. Then Entertainment Tonight. They always push that on YouTube, entertainment stuff. And so I can understand, but there's no reason for Family Matters. I do need to obtain the TV show. But then we have Motiveholic. Dear God, why is he even here? And YouTube will not allow me to get rid of these. I have to be signed in order to say, don't recommend these channels. And then by getting the cursor near the vicinity, it all of a sudden started playing. And so now YouTube thinks I like this and will flood my channel with it. Bastards. And then Tom McDonald, I have no idea who he is. I'm a little bit concerned about a cowboy with space aliens. Talking about the end of the world. It looks funny. I'm not sure if that's what he's intending. And then we have Hello, Saints. Now I can understand, because I put the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the LDS Church, Mormons, in my videos. And so it would make sense why, but it frustrates me to no end because I cannot get rid of them. But this is a pastor from a Christian religion, and this is the video we're going to talk about today. He did 2 days ago, he's got 45,000 views. He doesn't know Mormonism. Why are you watching him? I know Mormonism. Why aren't you watching me? Dear God. The stupidity of people. Seriously, you've got TikTok brains brainwashed from China. This is why it's dangerous. You all just are zombies now. Pastor reacts is in all caps. This is a psychological manipulation. It's not factual, it's emotional. Oh, trigger! Snowflake! Deep state! You're being brainwashed. And he's part of this brainwashing. Religion was the original brainwasher. And then psychologists came around. Hey, that's a good idea. We're going to use those same bullying tactics to get clients to Latter-day Saint view of the cross. So yeah, he's being respectful. He's comparing the Christian cross with the Latter-day Saint view, and he's not calling it the Mormon view. So he's aware that Mormons get offended when they're called Mormon, because Nelson demands they be called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so I don't even need to watch that video to know how to explain this for you. I can already explain the view of Christians. The cross is the symbol of his dying for us, as they say. He has saved us, and all we need to do is believe in his name, and we are saved too. That's it. Faith without works. And though they get confused and they'll say, oh, no. You still have to be a good person. Still have to obey the 10 Commandments, which is in the culturally appropriated Jewish scriptures that we've turned Christian. But we're not anti-Semitic. I had a person comment that very same thing. He's commenting about the Old Testament and claiming that it is a horrible, awful book. That's being anti-Semitic, because you are imposing your Christian ignorant bias upon a text that is not yours, is not Christian, and you don't even know learning of the Jews to interpret it correctly. You're making a hasty generalization, false equivalency, non sequitur, many other fallacies that are common among psychologists and religions. They cannot be sound in their arguments. And thus, ignorance leads to hate, hate leads to violence. So as much as this pastor is pretending to have a smile on his face and being respectful to Mormons, and clearly explaining that, no, he's still anti-Semitic. All Christians are. And it doesn't matter if you didn't realize it. It's because you were brainwashed by your religion. Christianity is a cult too. And so, yeah, I now don't have lots of views because everybody's offended. Because Christianity and Mormonism taught you to be offended and to attack people who attack them. This is why you're offended. Because they make you ignorant. And ignorant leads to hate. And hate leads to violence. And so, yeah, that's the cross. I had to tell that person to watch it, because I will ban him from my channel and report him. I will not allow hate on my comments. That's why I hold all comments for review. And YouTube needs to back off and let me be the judge. Because their bias is interfering. And so the Mormon view. We don't wear crosses, right? What do you mean we, Travis? Aren't you an apostate Korahar or some other Satan religion? What did I just talk to you about? Ignorance leads to hate, hate leads to violence. You weren't listening. You don't know me because you don't watch me. You don't watch my videos. You can know me by watching my videos and following me. And even if you think you've watched a few, now you know me, you don't. Ignorance leads to hate. Hate leads to violence. The Latter-day Saint view, it's not about the cross, it's about the tomb. And Nelson has cut off the ascension. When I was growing up in the church, it was all about the ascended Jesus Christ. He's ascended to heaven. He came to the Lamanites or Nephites who were made pure and delightsome at the city of Bountiful. Again, if you take it literally, you become an anti-Semite. Ignorance leads to hate. Hate leads to violence. And the church is purposely deceiving us and lying to us about the Book of Mormon. It's the learning of the Jews. But anyway, he taking it literally, he came to the Nephites in the Americas, right after he died and ascended. Because in John, he says, "Don't touch me, woman. I have not yet ascended to my Father." And if you're going to get offended with that, he's saying, "Hey, beloved wife, I have not yet ascended to the throne in the temple of Zion, where we are going to be married for the latter days supper wedding feast of the Lamb." Revelation 19, Doctrine and Covenants 58. But the church won't teach you that. Neither will Christianity. And that's the other view. And so the cross for the Church of Jesucristos de los Santos de los Últimos Días. Did I say that right? Did I mix them up? Is about the tomb being resurrected. That's Nelson's focus. He will not talk about the ascension. I've done multiple videos condemning him and mocking him for not talking about the ascended Christ. He only talks about the resurrected Christ. Even when he raised an idol god Jesus for Mormons, he did not mention ascended, resurrected. There's a reason why. And it's right there on the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple. And all Mormons miss it. Because ignorance leads to hate. Hate leads to violence. And so, yes, that's the Mormon view of the cross. It's the tomb. And then they love to say, "Oh, that's baptism. Buried in the ground and raised up from the ground." It's amazing they don't bury us alive in soil to be baptized. And yet they're clueless about the second birth, born again with babies, which is what it's about, which is what burial in the ground is about. And thus the water, the parting of the waters and coming through on dry ground. Hey, that sounds similar to the Moses story and the creation story. Yeah, you haven't been following me when I gave those lessons, as well as mention them in other videos. So yes, the cross for Joseph's church has to do with the latter-day sign in the heavens. The 3 days of darkness. And that's another video, is the second one that's this year. And so we'll get more into detail on that with that video. Because I've got the shirt. I'm all set. My collection is now complete. But that's what it's talking about. Because all the scriptures are Jewish scriptures, which means it's Jewish interpretation, which means it's prophecy after the manner of the Jews, which means it's books of revelation for the latter days. So any of the heroes in any of the stories are symbolic types and shadows of their Christ, not Jesus, who is merely a symbolic character, a type and shadow of their latter-day Christ. He was not born in the Roman period time. Joseph wasn't in Egypt. They used the name Joseph for the hero of the story. They put him in the setting with Egypt and told their prophecy of the latter days. Same with Moses and the Exodus. There was no Moses. He is a symbolic character, a type and shadow of the latter day Christ, which is why the Jews then in their law, technically the repetition of the law, but as a repetition that means that the original law is exactly the same. It's just a repeating, and thus is the same as the law. And so in the law, in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 15 through 19, is their prophecy of their Christ for the latter days, whom they are still waiting for. And they don't realize he's here. Neither do Mormons, because Joseph Smith said, hey, he's our Christ. And he's Mormon. And Joseph Smith gave extra prophecies above and beyond the other scriptures, saying, hey, this is him. This is more specific to who he is. So that Mormons cannot miss him, because they'll be looking for him, and they'll know who he is because of all the billions of prophecies about him, of every single detail of his whole life. Nobody could ever miss it or look beyond the mark. Oops. And so the cross of the Christ has to do with his name, Emmanuel, which is a phonetic transliteration from the Egyptian god Amun, the sun at noonday, sun god. And so in Luke, he's the son of the highest sun, the sun at noonday. Joseph Smith calls the personages light brighter than the sun. Nephi, sun at noonday. Emmanuel is our Christ. That's his name. And he is mortal. He's human. That's the learning of the Jews. Joseph Smith says that's our Christ, and he's going to be Mormon with more detail about him. So all the prophecies are about him. If the prophecy has supernatural stuff, it's not supposed to be interpreted supernatural. It's not supposed to be interpreted literally. It's a symbolic type and shadow. Thus, Moses parting the Reed Sea, that has to do with birth, creation. Parting the waters, passed through on dry land. But amazingly, he did that through prophecy. Prophesied that the Green River would dry up and that Mormons could pass through on dry land if they would only have hearkened to him back in 2020. They didn't. Mormons missed the Exodus. We're looking at a near tragedy disaster that Joseph Smith warned, that the Book of Mormon warned multiple times. Writing a record of the destruction of my people. Writing a record of the destruction of my people. Writing a record of the destruction of my people and their great wickedness. Mormons looked beyond the mark. X marks the spot of the 2 days of darkness that begin and end the latter days. That is the location for the Mormon Zion with their Mormon Christ. And all Mormons have looked beyond the mark because their leaders, the false prophets and false Christs warned about, have caused a stumbling block for them by turning their Christ into Jesus, the great and abominable Christ of the great and abominable church that is anti-Semitic, which is why they're abominable. So that's it. That's the different views. And so am I going to get 45,000 views plus?